I'm real itchy right now. Howdy roundabout, all you shaggy goose egg boys, and welcome back to another episode of Al Pacino's Prison Scene. If you follow us on Twitter, you knew a couple of days ago what movie we were going to talk about. And if you didn't follow us on Twitter, but you're listening to this episode now, you know what we're talking about because it was in the title. But this is Al Pacino's Prison Scene. I may have already said that. I don't know. I forgot. This is a podcast where we look at movies that objectively have no deeper meaning and we think about it. As always, I'm your host, Thomas, and with me is my co-host, Jake.
Noisy boy. He does it for longer in the movie, but I thought I was going to get tired.
I think that's the coolest designed robot in this movie, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And I have something to say about that.
But we're talking about the movie Real Steel, which is boxing with robots, starring Hugh Jackman. Yeah, that's the movie we're talking about today.
And Evangeline Lilly, can't forget about her.
She's also in this movie.
She's cute. I like her.
Which, all right, so there's one point in the movie, she gets really dressed up just to go to the bar, and I don't know why. Did you notice that?
When he's fighting Twin Cities?
Yeah.
Because he's fighting Twin Cities.
Yeah, but she looks better in the ar than she did at the end, I think. And that dude sits down next to her and is like, but he never talks to her.
Oh, the guy, when she's like slamming the beer on the table?
Yeah. But yeah, we're talking about Real Steel. I'm going to get into a recap real quick. All right, so it opens with a song that...
All of my days.
Yeah, that's what it's called. And Hugh Jackman's driving his truck, and he looks real sad, and he drives it to a carnival. And then the next morning, where the carnival was, there's like a little robot boxing match, but it's with a bull. And he's like, hey, this bull is not 200 pounds. This is more than that. And they're like, well, tough luck, buddy. You still got to fight him. And
hey
he's
there,
like,
Charlie boy.
All right, 20 grand, whatever. And then he's like, okay. But if you lose, you got to pay me 20 grand. And Charlie's like, okay.
Or I'm going to beat you within an inch of your life, Charlie boy.
Yeah, he says that. And then what's the thing's name? Ambush? The robot?
Yeah.
The robot's name is Ambush, and then he gets ambushed by the bull.
Ambush!
And he dies real bad. He gets real dead. And then some little girls steal his arm and say, you can have, or his leg, and they say, you can have it for $5. And then the little one goes, booyah! And that little girl is my favorite character in the whole movie.
She has big eyebrows.
She does have big eyebrows. And so then, when Hugh Jackman's going back to his, hold on, I'm scratching my back. It's interrupting my vocals.
Did you roll in the grass or something?
Nope. Hugh Jackman's walking back to his trailer, and these two people, and one of them's wearing a cowboy hat and is following him. And he's like, wah, pah! And he punches him. That's the noise that his fist made. And he punches him. And then he's like, I'll hit you like I hit your girlfriend there. And then the other guy's like, no, we just want to talk to you. Your son's mom died. And then he's like, well, is my son dead? And they're like, no, but you got to go get him because he's your son. He's like, I don't want to, but okay. So then he goes to this courtroom and he's like, hey, I don't want him. And then the kid's aunt is like, I want him. And the lawyer's like, well, the dad gets to get him. And the dad's like, dang it. But then the dad talks to Marvin, who's the aunt's husband, and is like, hey, you give me a lot of money and then you can have him for the rest of his life. And then Marvin's like, okay, but I'll let you have him for the summer because we're going to Paris or something. I don't remember where they went. And so Charlie's like, oh, okay, fine. So he does that. But then he goes to this boxing place. I don't remember what it's called. It starts with a T. And Evangeline Lilly works there. And it turns out they used to be a thing, kind of, maybe. But he also was raised with her because her dad trained him when he was a boxer, maybe.
Yeah.
But we don't learn that yet. We learn that a little later. And then he buys another robot, Noisy Boy, the one that Jake was talking about earlier.
Boy.
But now his son's there, and the son's like, you don't want me, you bought me. And then Charlie's like, yeah, you're right, Max. I don't want you. I bought you. So you're going to stay here with Evangeline Lilly. And then he's like, no, I like robots. I want to go with you to fight the robots. I speak Japanese because I play video games. And so then they go and they see Anthony Mackie. And he's like, hey, man, hey, Charlie, I know you. You want in this fight? And he's like, yeah, but I want the real fight. Let me fight Midas. And he's like, okay, you're going to lose. And then Max, who's the son, is like, "Yeah, Dad, you're gonna lose." And then Charlie's like, "Shut up, I know what I'm doing." And then he loses.
Yeah.
And I think Noisy Boy's head gets ripped off because
And
they
his
sell it
arm.
for like $300 or something like that.
And his arm.
And then he gets back, or no, then they go to like this graveyard, this robot graveyard, which I guess is just a junkyard. And it's like, we got to get some parts. And then the kid's like, man, if I stand on this ledge, it'd be really bad if I fell. And then he falls. But then he gets caught by a mysterious metal robot who's covered in all the dirt and stuff. And then Hugh Jackman, Charlie, is like, we don't want that. That's just a bunch of junk. If you want it, you got to get it. So the kid stays and he gets it and he brings it back.
And then he stinks.
And it turns out it's a Gen 2 robot. It's from the second generation. Yeah, why did he not take a shower when he got back to the gym?
He did.
But not immediately. Okay.
I think.
And then they figure out that the Gen 2 robot has shadow boxing because he was actually like a sparring robot. And what shadow boxing means is he'll look at you and then mimic your movements. But then the kid finds out that he can actually hear him somehow, maybe. And he's like, "You can understand me? Don't worry, I won't tell anybody." And then they go to this place.
The zoo?
No, they go somewhere first.
Oh, they're at like the.
Oh yeah, they go to the WRB. Yeah, because Charlie's got to talk to Anthony Mackie, whose name is like Finn or something, I think. Yeah. And he's like, "You got to give me a fight." He's like, "You go to the zoo." And he's like, "I'm not going to the zoo." But then Max is like, "Oh, I just watched the fight. That was awesome." And then Charlie's like, "Okay, you know what? We'll go to the zoo." So then they go to the zoo, and this guy with a really long mohawk is like, "I'll give you $100 to fight me." And then Max is like, "No, I want more." And he's like, "Okay, I'll give you $300." And Max is like, "No, I want more." And he's like, "Okay, but if you lose and I get to keep them,
I get to keep what's left of them."
And then Max is like, "Deal." And then they win because magic. The dude's robot just dies.
Not magic, that's science.
It just kills himself, kind of. And so then they win that fight, and the dude's like, "Oh man, now I got to pay them money."
He's like, I know.
And then there's like a montage of them fighting a bunch of robots, and then this one guy's like, "Hey, if you do this, you can come fight Twin Cities, which is in the WRB." And then Charlie's like, "Okay." But then the girl who owns Zeus, who's like the leader robot, like the best robot ever in the world, she's like Molotov cocktail. She's like,
"Hello, I like to buy your boat, please."
Yeah, she wants to buy it. And then Charlie's like, "Okay," but Max is like, "No." And Charlie's like, "Hold on." And Max is like, "No." So then they fight, and then they win. And Charlie's like, "See, I told you we shouldn't have told him." Max is like, "No, you got to say Max was right." But he doesn't say it. He just says we were a good team. But then, and then at the end of that fight, Max is like, "Hey," he gets on the stage. He's like, "Hey, we want to fight Zeus. Zeus, fight us." And everyone's like, "Woo!" But then Charlie has to take Max back to his aunt because it's the end of the summer. And Max is like,
"No."
What?
They get kersplooted by the "I'm gonna beat you within an inch of your life, Charlie boy."
Oh yeah. That's right after the
Twin Cities fight.
Yeah.
And that's why he calls Marvin and they take him.
Well, but it was time anyways.
Yeah, but he also called.
Well, yeah, he did get beat up by the guy at the beginning with the bull. I forgot to mention that. But then so he takes the kid to his aunt, and then the kid's like, "I don't want to go. I just want you to fight for me." And then the dad's like, "No, I don't want to." And then he the Max goes and talks to Adam, I think maybe, and then leaves. And then Charlie goes home and gets in bed with Evangeline Lilly, unconsensually, by the way. And like hugs her, and then she smiles, so I guess it's okay. But all you people in real life, don't do that, because also this movie was set in 2020. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Oh, I did not know.
Not a single person was wearing a mask. For shame.
Canceled.
Hugh Jackman and Sean Levy and everyone else who made this movie. Which is also based on a short story, apparently. I didn't know that. But I
thought it was based on another movie.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Rocky.
No. It's based on a short story called Steel, apparently. Your laptop's taking off.
It's got to cool down. It's real hot in here, you know?
Yeah, sorry. So then he's like, Evangeline Lilly the next morning is like, "No, Max?" And he's like, "Don't ask me about it." And then she's like, "You can do this." And he's like, "Okay." So then he goes to Max at the aunt's house. He's like, "Oh, look, I came to apologize." And the kid's like, "That's all?" And he's like, "No. I mean, yes, but no. I came because we got the Zeus fight. And all these kids are in the street looking at our robots. We got to get out of here." So then they get out of here and they go to the Zeus fight. And then everyone's like, "Woo, yeah, we're at the Zeus fight." The aunt's there, Marvin's there. Evangeline Lilly's there, Anthony Mackie's there. He's taking bets, and Cowboy Hat is there, and he's like, "I bet you 100 Ks."
Hold it, no. He goes, "Yeah, I bet you 100 KD go down in the first fight, homie."
I think he says can't make it to round 2, and then he's so confident that he gives Anthony Mackie,
"Hey, homie, home slice, homeboy."
All right, I'm about to cancel you. He's so confident that Anthony Mackie, he gives Anthony Mackie his seat number, but then in the fight, they're like, "Oh, we're so good, bam, 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 we're getting hit and we can do everything." But then the little voice whatever thing. Oh, I forgot to mention that Noisy Boy had like a thing where you could talk and he would listen to you.
Yeah.
And Max made it to where Adam had that.
Yeah.
So at some point in the Zeus fight, the last fight, Zeus knocks that loose. So they're like, "Oh no, now Adam can't hear us anymore."
Oh, no.
So then Max is like, "Charlie, you got a box," because back in the day, Charlie was a boxer. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
And then Charlie's like, I can't do that anymore. But then Max is like, "You got to," and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so then he's like in the and he's doing shadow boxing outside the ring. I almost did punching motions,
and
I
you know
realized
the
y'all
song
couldn't hear me.
Do 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Nobody knows that song.
Well, that's the song that plays.
Nobody knows that song.
And then Evangeline Lilly and Max are like, "Look at him go."
Yeah, and they both start crying.
And so did I.
I figured you did. And so then Charlie was like, "Bam, bam, bam! I'm shadowboxing in the ring," and then Max is like, "You got to fight back," and he's like, "Not yet." And then Evangeline Lilly's like, "Yeah, not yet, Charlie." And then Max is like, "Fight back," and he's like, "Not yet." And then Evangeline Lilly's like, "Yeah, not yet, Charlie." And Max is like, "You got to fight back," and Charlie's like, "Not yet." And then Evangeline Lilly's like, "Yeah, not yet, Charlie." And then Charlie's like, "Now!" And then he like does the uppercut, and then Zeus falls down, but he doesn't. The bell rings or something.
Well, no, he falls down. Okay. So Hugh Jackman goes, "Hey, kid, now." Starts beating the crap out of Zeus. Zeus gets knocked down. Takamishuda hits the turbo boost override, goes manual control all the way.
That's the guy who created Zeus, by the way.
And Noisy Boy.
Okay.
And then Adam knocks Zeus down, and everybody's like, and then he gets back up, and then Adam keeps punching him a bunch more, and then all the power is depleted, and Takamishuda punches the screen, and Adam's like, "Pow, pow, 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 pow," and then the bell rings.
Okay. But anyways, it's like a split decision. It's like 78, 77, 76, 77, 76, 78. And then they're like, Zeus won. And then people are like, "Oh, but we know he won the decision, but he lost the fight."
Yeah, Faral Lemko was like,
the outcome is as expected.
Russian accent, hold on. The outcome is as expected.
Which,
Zeus is
I looked
still
it up.
undefeated.
She's actually Russian, but that sounded like a bad Russian accent to me.
Well, have you ever heard a real Russian accent from a real Russian person?
Yeah.
In person?
Yeah, me.
Oh, okay.
Because if you've seen Glow, I think it sounds like the accent that Alison Brie does in Glow, which is not supposed to be a good accent.
Hey, that's a good show. Wink, wink.
Have you watched it?
No.
Okay.
But I've seen. And then
right,
they're like,
Jake likes naughty bits.
And then, and then they're like, "Hey, Takamishuda, how you feel?" And he's like,
I was about to say, I don't think he says anything. And then it's like a freeze frame, but not really, and then it fades to white. And that's the end of the movie. See, I know for a fact that you put this in the fishbowl because I did not enjoy this movie.
I'm pretty sure this was written down, actually.
Wasn't it?
Wasn't it this one a written down one, not a typed one?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, because there's most of them are typed.
Oh, yeah. But either way, I think you put it in there.
Oh, I did for sure. You don't like this movie?
It's all right. Number one, okay, none of the emotional beats got me. I was like, this is so stupid.
Dang, really? Because they got me, man.
No, and then like when they were crying at the end, I'm pretty sure I rolled my eyes.
What? Why?
Because I was like, this is so stupid.
No, it was not.
Why were they crying?
Because it's like a feel good cry, man.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's like an epic, like they came along this journey, and now this is the final hour, and you know Hugh Jackman's been pretty poo poo, you know, since he left his girlfriend, that was dead now, and we've seen him grow.
Max's mom.
Right, Max's mom, and we've seen him grow, and we've seen Max grow, and then they grow together, and then Adam grow with him, and then him develop this bond with Evangeline Lilly, and him get beat up, and it's all just like, hey, look at that, we did it.
Which I'd like to point out, this movie's like the Marvel All Stars movie because you got Hugh Jackman, who's Wolverine, Evangeline Lilly, who is Wasp, Anthony Mackie, who's Falcon,
Yeah.
and then the kid who plays Max played young Thor in Thor.
Young Thor?
Yeah.
What?
You don't remember Thor? There's a scene where Thor and Loki are kids, and then Odin's like, Loki, I hate you, Thor, I love you.
Go yo.
You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
Well,
this one?
I can't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So while watching this movie, I was like writing because I'd seen this before, but I didn't really remember anything about it. Like I thought I remembered how it ended. I thought he actually won the fight in the end. But
no. That
was-
would be too happy.
I was gonna say that watching movies like this remind me how good of a movie Rocky is, because this movie it's not good.
I mean, Rocky's excellent, but I really do. I like this movie. I have a question for you, Thomas.
Oh,
How
okay.
would you, in what genre would you classify this film?
Robot genre. Oh, that's what also I was gonna say that. I think you're just horny for robots.
Why?
'Cause you like this and you Transformers.
Okay,
I think you
fair
just
enough.
like robots.
Fair enough. So, but seriously, what genre would you classify this as?
Musical.
Okay, I'm gonna say family sci-fi. All right, that's what I'm gonna say.
Well, I did write down that once Adam shows up, I was getting kind of ET vibes, and I think that Sean Levy is one of those directors. He directed this, by the way. He also did Stranger Things. If you
Well,
didn't know that.
Sean Levy is E.T.
I was gonna say Sean Levy is one of these directors that likes to I don't know if be reminiscent of is the right word, but he likes to kind of be like Spielberg-esque in his movies, or he tries to be. And I don't know if it always lands.
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean. Like just like stylistically, or
Yeah.
okay.
Like Spielberg in the 80s was largely like these family movies, like The Goonies and
Yeah,
E.T. and
okay.
all that
I
stuff.
got what you're saying now.
It was like Sean Levy also made the Night at the Museum movies,
which are also great.
I like the Night at the Museum movies. Although
Are
I
there
think
only two, or
there's
there three?
3.
Okay, the third one I don't think I've seen.
The third one is pretty good. It's not as good as the first one. I think the order of ranking is 2, 3, 2, 1, 3.
Oh, I have seen.
But they're
third one.
they're also creating a show for Disney Plus, I think.
Of Night at the Museum.
Yeah,
What?
because Disney owns that now because they bought Fox. But anyways, we're not talking about that. We're not even really talking about Sean Levy. He's not important. We're talking about the movie he made back in 2011.
So at the beginning, the reason I say family sci-fi is definitely I feel like there's sci-fi elements, but
Real Steel.
The position originally I was thinking about taking was one. Obviously, man versus machine is hugely prevalent in this film, but now I think it's man and machine, because originally, like sci-fi, the genre often is used to what's it called? Exploit. There you go. Exploit man's fear about technology, and I thought that was possible. And I do think that there are elements of that, and I think that those elements are seen through the existence of Adam, and then we see like the robots that come after Adam.
Yeah.
But I do think it's man and machine.
When you say that come after him, do you mean like he's Gen 2?
Yeah. Like a literal timeline kind of thing.
Which Gen stands for generation.
In case you didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's is that our daily Al Pacino word today?
Idiots.
Is generation.
Only dumb people listen to this.
I listen to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's it, all you guys. I just called you dumb. But it's okay, we're dumb too. That's why you're here. We're all dumb together.
Oh, I guess you do listen to it when you edit.
Yep.
There you go. It's all in one big cycle.
Yep. Dumb feed the dumb.
And that's why smart doesn't exist.
Yeah. Because big is bad.
Big is bad. Small is good.
Well, okay. I don't know what episode that's from, but we said that before. Okay, but I both agree and disagree with you about your point, but humans and robots or whatever. But throughout the movie, I would write down like several things that I was like, oh well, maybe this is supposed to be the meaning. But then later in the movie, something would happen that like directly contradicts
Yeah,
that
which
meaning.
original? Yeah.
And like there's several of those. One of which, for example, is like betting at the beginning of the movie. Um, Hugh Jackman is like, "I'll," like I said, there's like the 20 grand thing, and then he loses, so he runs away and he doesn't pay the guy.
Yeah, with
And but then
Charlie boy.
and then later that guy does the same thing when he bets the 100 grand.
Right, and he loses big time.
But yeah, see, like for him, it's bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
But like Charlie, other than when he gets beat up in the parking lot, which even though the dude said within an inch of his life, he really all he had was like barely a black eye.
Yeah,
So
it definitely wasn't within an inch of his life because he could still move, and he got up and he drove. So
like I wrote down, don't. Which there's like an actual saying for this, and I don't think this is how it's worded, but I wrote down, don't cash checks with your mouth that your wallet can't clear.
like don't count your chickens before your eggs or whatever.
Yeah. Don't count your chickens before your eggs.
However,
don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Oh, that's the same thing, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, so like that, because like it doesn't really end poorly for Hugh Jackman, I don't think, in this movie.
Yeah.
There's that scene where he gets beat up, but there's also like two other guys that he owes money to in the beginning of the movie that never come up.
Back, yeah.
So like, there's a lot of things like that, and like I was also thinking that maybe this was going to have the same theme of we can be heroes, that like the newer generation is better, and like planned obsolescence and all that. Because at the beginning of the movie, Charlie's like, like I said, with the 20 grand and all that stuff, and like in the Noisy Boy fight, he could have just taken an underdog fight or whatever they were called.
Undercard.
But then he goes for Midas. He goes for the big boy, and then he loses.
And you know why?
Why?
We just said it.
Self-discovery.
Big is bad.
So small is good.
Small is good, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And then during that fight, Max was like, "No, just take an undercard fight."
And then later,
so I was like, "Oh, okay. So maybe they're saying like that Max is better than Charlie." But then Max ends up doing the same freaking thing.
Yeah, it is an interesting dichotomy that we see here, where it's like one character does it, and the other character says no, and then later in the film, the roles reversed.
Which, granted, it did work out for Max, but I don't think it's because Max was more proficient than Charlie.
Right.
I think number one, it was luck because the other machine malfunctioned, but also two, it was clear in that moment that Charlie knew what he was doing more than Max.
Well, in that instance, he hit him so daggum hard, though.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
I thought that the robot was just like...
No. Because he hit him so hard that his brain got all kablooed. In the same way that later in the film, when Zeus hit Adam, his hearing got all haywire. The same thing.
Which, also, Zeus looks like a Bionicle. Did you think of that?
No, but he does.
Because the rest of them don't, but he really does.
No.
Which I haven't seen those in a long time, but I feel like those are also really good movies.
Bionicles?
Yeah.
Well,
there's three of them.
We got the VHS one.
There's Bionicle. Oh, wait. Is there three movies? Is the first one called Bionicle or is the first one called The Mask of Light?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Let me look.
The third one's called Web of Shadows, I think.
Bionicle. Film series.
Maybe it's Bionicle, The Mask of Light, and Web of Shadows.
Mask of Light, I think, is the first one.
Okay, what's the
second
one?
And then Legends of Metro.
Okay, I didn't know if that was one of the titles or not.
Web of Shadows, The Legend.
No, there's no more after that.
I'm looking at it.
I know, but nope. I pretend like that fourth one does not exist.
Why?
Is that the Netflix one?
No, I don't think so. This might be the Netflix one. Metro Nui.
No, that's not it.
Well.
Okay, see, like these were 2003, 2004, 2005, and that one came out a little later.
Okay.
That's not the Netflix one though. There's a Netflix series that's also not very good, I think. Anyways, back to Real Steel, the real live action robots, not those stupid Lego robots. Get out of here. Which Bionicles are actually a pretty cool idea, I think.
I have been thinking about getting one.
Do they still sell them, or would you have to get one off of like eBay or something?
I think they're on Amazon. All right, back to Real Steel.
So like there's a lot of things like that, and like I wrote down that like this kind of felt like a worse version than the movie Logan, because it's like it's Hugh Jackman again,
right?
And he's like the dad in the child relationship, but there's so much more going on in this movie than just the relationship, because you've also got all the
Yo.
robot stuff, and you've got Hugh Jackman with Evangeline Lilly's character, and so like that kind of falls flat there. But then by the end of the movie, it's not even really similar to Logan, I don't think, even though it may seem like that in the beginning. So like, there's only one thing that I think is like prevalent throughout the movie,
Okay.
and that's like this theme of humanity needing to be present. Because what does that say?
Okay. Why? Okay. Humanity needing to be present. Why?
Well, all right. So you have the first place this comes up. So obviously, Charlie as a character used to be a boxer, and
Right.
this is what I'm saying. I kind of disagree and kind of agree with what you were saying about humans and robots together. Um, he mentions when they're in the junkyard, he mentions that Generation One like looked almost like exactly human,
Mm-hmm.
because they thought, the more human the better.
Right.
Uh, but then, as the robots went forward, they got less and less more like humans, because the humans craved violence,
Yeah.
and it's cathartic. And I wrote down, but more violence equals less human.
Well, see,
Because
this is part of what I was going with is more of the idea of like sensationalism.
yeah.
So that's like the same thing, just worded differently.
And so then that also defeats the we can be heroes argument of, the new generation is better, because Adam is Generation 2. He's from that older generation that is more human,
Yeah.
and he's the one that ends up winning in the end. But then also, by the end of the fight, there's really no, because I would argue that for each generation of the robots, and we don't know what generation we're up to in this movie. I don't
Well,
think.
Generation 2 is 2014.
And this was
And
supposed
it's
to be 2020,
right.
so
So
probably at least Generation 5, something like
s-
that.
if the math check, like if we think about it mathematically, likely yes, Gen 5.
Um, so then I would argue that every generation gets like a little further removed from humanity. It's kind of like, I don't know if we talked about this on this episode before, if I've discussed it in one of my classes. It's kind of like how war. Oh, okay. I talked about this in my philosophy class. War has gotten less and less personalized
Yeah.
over the years, whereas like in the early 1900s, World War One, all that stuff, and even like way before then, like Civil War, it's man to man, whatever, blah blah blah, and then like you have inventions along the way that take out the personalized aspect of it. To whereas now we have things like drones, to where you could be in a room somewhere in like North Dakota, and you hit a button on the keyboard, and you just killed like 500 people halfway across the globe.
Yeah.
But you don't feel any of the remorse because of that.
Because yeah, like you said, it's so impersonal. You're so far detached from seeing the death that you've created.
And
Essentially.
so this is not really related to that specifically, but the same thing is happening with the robots. Like
Oh,
the humans,
absolutely.
the humans controlling them get further and further away from the carnage that's happening in the ring, and that makes for more violence, which for some people is going to be good, but for some people it's also going to be bad.
Well, and that increases the sensationalism.
Yeah.
So, like from the very beginning, we see like the first fight that Ambush has.
Which, speaking of, was his intention to just murder that bull? Is that what was supposed to happen there?
I don't know.
Because that's what I was
I
thinking.
think so, because it
'Cause
was a fight to the
that's
death.
not okay,
I'm pretty
bro.
sure. Well, no, exactly, and that's what I'm saying with sensationalism. This very first fight is number one. We think it's a 200-pound bull, so
Yeah.
the audience going in is like, oh, and we don't really have like a gauge for how intense these fights are, how large these fights are. So when they say 200 pounds, we're thinking, oh, that's huge, and then they're like 2,000 pounds. Oh, that's insane. That's so much more than we were thinking about. And it's in Texas. Everything in Texas is bigger, and
Big is bad, small is good.
I think that it's assumed that a bigger bull means a better fight, right? A more intense fight, a
Yeah.
grander fight, and the audience at the fight, we can definitely see that through, because they're all like, "We will kill some robot action today," and then the cowboy guy's like, yo, playing a robot boxing. I was like, woo! And it all is just a show. And Charlie says this later when Max has done all the voice modulation thing and fixing up Adam, and Charlie's like, "Hey, you should do that dance. It's all just a show." And so you're talking about how they get less and less human. Well, the less and less human they look, I think, like you said, less impersonal it gets, and the more destruction that can be wreaked, like you said, and but you get to a point where it's not enough anymore in a generation.
Yeah.
So you have to make it bigger and badder. And the next generation comes in, it just keeps getting bigger until you reach a point with like Zeus. And I think Zeus is a prime example of this pinnacle of destruction. He's this slick black robot with this super stern face and these neon green highlights. And it looks awesome. Do not get me wrong. And Adam does not look awesome. Adam looks like a little twerp, you know. And we see through these different robots. We have the Metro, which is the zoo robot, who
It looks like garbage, I think.
he does look like garbage, but he in a very redneck trash way. He looks cool.
Yeah.
And he is a lot less human like than
Which-
Adam is.
Also, that dude with the mohawk, that's a lot of hair to put up with gel like that.
Yeah, it is. And he probably doesn't bathe.
So I think it's just like his own body fluids, like grease.
Yeah,
and
well, he did
stuff.
it once, and then
It just stuck.
that's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the sensationalism, and then how did you put it again?
What?
Like the errant want for like destruction, like the
that-
impersonalization of these fights.
More violence equals less human.
Yeah, and I also want to point out, and I didn't think about this.
Well, and
just now.
I meant like yes, literally the humans are further removed, but also like more morally wise.
Yeah, well, I mean, physically distanced. Like Takmashido's robot, like he's sitting in a chair behind a screen. He's not like watching the fight.
Well,
at
for
all.
number one, he's not even controlling it at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly, at the beginning. But then like he needs to, and plot, whatever. But even the people, or we can even take it to Noisy Boy. Like he doesn't have any like actual commands.
Yeah.
That they say. It's more like just combination moves.
Right.
So
And that's why they lost, because Charlie had to fight with his own style.
Right. And so there's that gap there also. But it is, and that's why Adam the shadow boxing element is super important, because it brings, like you said, the humanity is brought back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is super interesting. Like I said, I didn't think about this just now. As far as I remember, Adam is the only one with hands, like actual hands, with like movable fingers.
Maybe, yeah. I don't.
Now, granted, there's only 3.
At the top of my head, I don't know.
Well, because I know Zeus doesn't. Zeus has just,
yeah,
big round things or whatever. Noisy Boy doesn't have hands. Midas might.
Well, I was thinking about maybe the one that the zoo did, but also talking about that fight at the end. This is probably going to blow your mind a little bit, and this might have been why I rolled my eyes.
Metro does not have hands.
Okay.
And let me see if Midas has hands.
All right, I'm gonna wait till you finish looking that up, and then I'll say
Midas also does not have hands.
Okay. At the end, once he becomes the shadow boxer or whatever,
yeah.
Which I was gonna make that point that you made. I was getting to that about how like that brings the humanity back or whatever.
Right.
But also in that moment, Charlie is literally fighting for Max. Like not fighting to get him back, but like literally fighting for him, which is what Max asked him to do earlier in the movie.
You mean like in his place?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying that when Max was like, I want you to fight for me, he wasn't saying like, I want you to care about me?
He was.
But you're saying there's
he
this,
literally was fighting for him in that moment.
What? It's not. Is it a double
And that's
meaning?
also when they start crying.
Yeah. Double. What does that mean?
Double entendre is when like you say something that could be dirty, but it's also
Okay.
not.
I was gonna say it was like a double entendre, but that's not right.
It could be. I
Well,
want you to fight for me.
But yeah. So yeah, that's yeah. But
and then this goes along with the violence theme, something I thought was interesting is the robots. Well, I mean, on the two specifically, the ones that they fight have like Greek names because Midas is a Greek myth about
About greed.
the king of gold, whatever, and then Zeus is a Greek god. So I was trying to think. I wrote down is fighting Midas metaphorical for something, so maybe it's related to greed, like you just said.
Yeah.
But then also while you were talking earlier, I realized that like the Greeks and the Romans is when like the Colosseum battle started, and
Yeah.
that's when like the violence for entertainment.
Yeah.
Historically, like that's the first like record of that. I think is violence as entertainment. So that could be commentary there.
Yeah. Well, don't forget about Adam.
Well, and but it's spelled ATOM.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still, I think it's still prevalent to like biblically.
And so there's also like my Latin teacher made the argument that football is just like the Roman Colosseum in modern day, because if you
Like
think about
football or football?
football, like American football,
Okay.
because like it is, we don't call it a Coliseum, but it is a Coliseum, and like these kids, relatively kids, are like duking it out, and there are the safety pads or whatever, but people,
But it still
you could
is a
potentially
brutal
die
like
playing
sport.
football
And
or
now
lose your brain
keep in
function and
mind,
stuff.
we're both, film students, so we don't sport.
But people wouldn't think of it that way. But that's still like, in a way, that's that craving for violence.
No,
in
exactly.
the real world.
Right, exactly. And we've become so desensitized to that we like don't understand like what's really happening. And yeah, it is just a game, but like seriously. And then like rugby, which is older than football and primarily a other across the Atlantic sport, is even more violent.
Soccer? Oh, rugby.
Rugby, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because there's no pads, but there's also different rules. And like if you actually look at it, rugby ends up being safer than football somehow. And I think part of that is there's a term for this. I don't know what it is, but like because of the pads in football, people think that they're safer, so they will be more violent than they are playing rugby.
Yeah. I don't know what the term is either.
But yeah, so that's violence in like Roman Colosseum in the real today.
All right, let me look at my notes. I haven't looked at my notes at all yet.
Okay. Also, I want to point out, since this was set in 2020, we don't have robot boxers. We have YouTube boxers, and that's how sad our reality is. Because Logan Paul has been in like 3 fights now, I think, something like that. But the next one I think is supposed to be with McGregor. So that.
I thought you were talking about Real Steel 2.
No.
Oh, when Ambush is getting destroyed, like at the fair,
with the bull.
Yeah, talking about like the want for violence. They use terminology, and there's another side of this. They always say kill anytime, any fight. It's like a fight to the death, no matter what.
Yeah. Which that's what I was thinking. So like, does that mean that Noisy Boy has never lost?
I guess so. No, he did lose, but then that's why he stopped being a WRE bot. Is because he lost. But like,
okay, so then like, did they mod him and put him back together?
Yeah, like I assume so.
Because like I was thinking that like, because every robot that Charlie has, when it loses, it's like trashed.
Yeah. We also doesn't have like. We also got to think of like the Takmashido probably had a lot of money to fix Noisy Boy, and Noisy Boy probably has support and all that stuff.
Sponsors.
Yeah.
He got the Fig Newtons on his windshield.
Oh yeah, baby. But at the bullfight or whatever, the crowd's like, kill. Same thing with like Midas. Same thing with Metro. Now there are a few montage fights that we don't see, but I assume it's the same kind of thing where it's like, yeah, let's see the bot get destroyed. And then when they go to the WRB and they fight Twin Cities, it's definitely much more professional.
Yeah.
But the same vibe still exists, you know? And I don't know how real boxing is, because it doesn't. In Rocky 4 is Ivan Drago, right?
Yes.
Isn't Ivan Drago like, I will kill him?
He says, if he dies, he dies.
There you go. Yeah. Which is after Rocky 3 with the robot.
But no, Rocky 4 is the one with the robot.
Rocky 4 is the one with the robot.
Yeah.
So there you go. Think about that, baby. But yeah, they're all of these fights, and then the one with Zeus specifically. Like, what do you see when we see the fights with Zeus? All of those bots are like obliterated. He's like, "Did you see Axelrod?" And Axelrod's like, because he can't control himself because he got beat up so hard,
Right.
and his lower half is missing.
That's what it takes to be great, man.
Killing other bots, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah.
I guess so. But then, in that same sense, and I think this is more where what I took from this is in the sort of the same note as humanity, but like I don't know how to word this necessarily, but the semblance of humanity that exists in the robots, or like the true artificial intelligence that exists within them.
What do you mean?
Well, like because like robots don't have feelings,
Yeah.
or they're not sentient, but I think there are notes that Adam specifically is sentient, or at least developing that sentience.
Yeah.
in
Well,
this
and
film.
I would think that I would say that goes back to our point about humanity being needed, or like the separation of humanity
Yeah,
also separates that as well.
and I think that this is where this shift came from in Gen 2, is specifically with shadowboxing. Because the quote about shadowboxing, Evangeline Lilly states, she points out what it is. She says, he mimes or mimics, he mimes your movements and then stores them into his memory. Where's that at?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and stores them in his memory. And this is like true artificial intelligence, where like when Hugh Jackman says punch, it's being coded into his brain, and now he knows what to do with that.
Right.
And think about like what a human is. Like we like as babies, we learn to speak by mimicking sounds that we hear and forming them into those words. We learn to walk by watching our parents walk and all that stuff. So it's the same kind of like progress. And it's discussed in Chappie as well. When he learns to walk, they're like the people who kidnapped one of them are like,
Yeah.
"Look at mommy and daddy, we're walking," or
Yeah.
however you do a South African accent.
Yes.
So there is definitely this idea of sentience within these robots. And then obviously, even more so, the fact that Adam has a face beyond just the two eyes.
Yeah, but he didn't have a mouth, which
Yeah, he
bothers
does.
me. Where?
It's the thing. So it's the
That's
two
not a
eyes.
mouth.
It's the look at it. Look at it closely.
His face is just scratched.
In such a specific way that he has a face?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Like, look at that. You see that? He's obviously smiling.
I just think it's scratched. Maybe that was a design choice for the movie, but I don't think that he was designed that way in the world of the movie.
Okay, I do think you're right. It is a scratch, but I also think, but it is that developing of sentience. Like he wasn't sentient when he was first created, but throughout the course of this movie, he at least starts to develop that. And I think that because we don't start out with him, but we do see when Noisy Boy's armor is ripped off, and then Charlie's like, right cross, and he does it, and the juices get squirted on Midas. There is that moment when Midas and Noisy Boy look at each other without the help of their operators.
Yeah.
And even though it's not super expressed, we pick up on their emotions, the robot's emotions, at least very subtly. It's super subtle.
Yeah.
Like, did you pick up on that?
No.
I would recommend going back and watching the scene.
I'm not watching this again.
Okay, well, they do. And then
also, this is on Netflix if you want to watch it before we talk about it.
And then when was that a rewind?
Yeah.
And then when Max is watching Zeus come out after destroying Axelrod, Zeus looks at him. Now we don't know who's controlling Zeus at this point.
Yeah.
But I feel like it can be assumed that Zeus actively looks at Max.
Yeah.
And then near the end, in the Metro fight, Max is like, Adam, get up. And he gets up.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing about that. So I don't understand because, like, there's that scene very briefly when they're like right after they boot him up for the first time, and he's like, "You can understand me," and I guess maybe that's that like sentience that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And but then like there's that moment where that happens, but I don't really like understand what's going on.
When he's running and like
when Adam hears him and gets up. And maybe it's just that he was an earlier model, and so like he was made to be more human friendly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely the case, for sure. But that's what I'm saying is that like Adam is understanding these things without. He's learning from what has been previously established.
Right.
Because this is before he gets that voice modulator or regulator or whatever from Noisy Boy. But then it also happens again in the Zeus fight. But it's a lot but it's a lot quieter. Max goes over to Adam and is like, Adam, get up. And he gets up. But, and I think this is super interesting, is that right before the fight, or right before the Twin Cities fight, Faral and Kova, it's like, would you come to the Zeus Suite place? And Adam is looking in a mirror. And that, for all you cinematic language boys, is totally representative of gaining sentience.
I did not like that scene. It creeped me out.
That shot?
No, that scene.
The whole scene?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it could just cut back and forth between him and the mirror like 4 times. I was like, all right, I get it.
Okay. But yeah. So I definitely think there's developing of sentience, which goes back into
Wait, do you know, were the robots in this movie practical or were they all CG? Because if they're all CG, then they just got like opposite shots of an empty room. Unless there was like a ping pong ball guy.
I think there was a ping pong ball guy.
Okay.
Because I was looking at some stuff earlier, and I think I saw that. But that goes back to your idea of humanity and how humanity needs to be there, and I agree that it does. But I may have already said this. But after this Gen 2, after these sparring bots like Adam, that was taken away. Like they say that shadowboxing is rare, but we don't see it anywhere else but Adam.
Holy crap! The script was purchased in 2003.
Took them a while.
And it wasn't made in 2011.
Well, they had to invent the robots.
Oh, okay.
That was a problem. Where was I?
I don't know. Sorry.
Oh, but I think that what happened was, again, I might have said that bots like Adam were too human. And this is where this cycle of sensationalism started, was after Adam. Because now everything just wants to be bigger and better.
Right.
And so like I already described this, but these bots became less human and more bot and more bad and more destructive. And they lost that humanity.
I agree.
And then in the same sense, we can take this double. We can say that Adam is Charlie's double. And as Adam gains this semblance of sentience, Charlie too gains back his life. Or at least who he was before, presumably before Max came along.
Right. You might have more to say, but that's a perfect segue for the other big point I have.
Okay.
As I mentioned in the recap, this movie opens with a song called "All My Days."
All of my days.
And there's other songs throughout the movie, most of which are Eminem songs, but I didn't write any of those other ones down.
It also plays at the end.
Okay, I didn't know if it did or not, but if it does, then perhaps this adds into is it lyrically?
No, I think it's just instrumental.
Okay, well they don't play the whole song at the beginning, and so I wrote down when the movie started. I wrote down what I thought that maybe it could what it could mean, and I didn't research the lyrics at all when I wrote this down. Well, I wrote, it appears to me that this song is about looking for one's purpose in life and not really doing much as life passes you by. But then after the movie ended, I listened to the song again, and then I added on to that. In doing so, you've lost everyone you know and love along the way, including yourself. And the first two verses of the song play at the beginning of the movie, and it's basically just talking about what I just said.
Yeah.
But then it says this line, well, many a night I found myself with no friends standing near. And then cuts to the end of the song, skipping the next two verses. So I'm gonna read those two verses for you. The song goes, well, many a night I found myself with no friends standing near. All of my days I cried aloud, I shook my hands, what I'm doing here. All of these days, for I look around me and my eyes confound me, and it's just too bright as the days keep turning into night. Now I see clearly it's you I'm looking for all of my days. So I smile, I know I'll feel this loneliness no more. All of my days, for I look around me and it seems you found me and it's coming into sight. I think it's very important that's it. This is me talking now. I think it's very important that those verses were kind of cut out at the beginning, because I think at the beginning of the movie, where it cuts off is where Charlie is at that
Right.
point in his life, where he's lost everyone and lost his own purpose. Because I also wrote down that Charlie's an addict, and he's not like addicted to drugs or anything, but he's addicted to fighting,
Right.
and
Well,
then
and then this
maybe
perpetual
even
cycle of destruction and getting money for a new body. He's a very Han Solo
yeah.
type.
Well, I was also going to say he's even addicted to gambling, and that's why he always goes for the higher risk,
Yeah.
higher reward
Yeah.
fight. But that could just also be him being addicted to the fight. And so I think that's there. But then also the next verse says, it's you I'm looking for, which I think is clearly mentioning Max.
Right.
And, like he didn't know he was looking for Max all his life, or like that was the missing piece of his life. But by the end of the movie, that's apparent to him, and that's why he goes to Max. And it's like, hey, sorry, I wasn't there, but I'm here now.
Well, and let's take a look at the shot when that song is playing. It's him driving alone in his truck.
Yes.
And there's a considerably lengthy shot. It's not too long, but it is still long enough to be like, okay, this is happening. All right, this is still going on. Better out than in. I always say. Does that smell like beans?
I don't know. I'm trying not to
Tastes like
smell
black
it.
beans. But he's pulling up to the fair, and we hear the fair, and we also see like the Ferris wheel, and like all these lights and stuff, and he's just kind of sitting there, like he looks sad.
And see, I wondered about that when I watched it. So at the end, after I finished it and listened to the song again, and I wanted to see if they played the whole song in the beginning, so I watched the beginning scene again. And then after watching the whole movie and extrapolating my meaning from the song, I decided that the reason for that shot of him looking out on the carnival is kind of like him reflecting, uh, like that he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I wrote down he looks at the carnival like that because his life has no fun and no real joy. He's just like chasing this thing. I said he's an addict. He's chasing the high of the fight, but he's not winning, so like he's never actually like achieving the high. So he's constantly looking for the next hit. But I also wrote down he longs for what he does not have, but does not know how to get it, and that's when Max comes into his life.
Or does he even know what he wants?
No, but I think he knows he's missing something and
Right.
longs for whatever that
Right.
is. And then Max comes in to fill that void in his life.
And he does.
And so that
it's so
because
good.
of that song, I think that is a important message of this film. But then also, I think the greater, like second chances and all that, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But I think the greater meaning is like that. I think that thing with the song and second chances and finding, what he was missing is like the message of the film. But I think the deeper meaning of the film is what we've been saying about humanity and violence, and like
Right.
the separation of humanity breeds more violence.
Well, and let's think about how those two tie together, because really, and I think this is true, is that
Apes together strong.
yes, absolutely, is that Charlie doesn't have this thing in his life to keep him grounded in reality and to appreciate what is good in life. So he chases these robots fights,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he finds it, he doesn't need it anymore. And I feel like it's fair to assume that all the people, especially in the underground fights where Anthony Mackie is, and then the zoo, because I feel like all these people are living life purposelessly.
Yes.
And obviously, there's no way to tell if that's true or not. But I feel like it is, because all of them are looking for, like you said, that hit, that dopamine rush, because they are not receiving that delayed gratification anywhere else.
Mhm.
And if you've ever experienced delayed gratification, like Shaggy Goose Egg Boys, and something that you've put your heart and soul into, it feels so much better than that instant gratification of like, eating a cookie or whatever.
Yeah.
Like eating a store bought Chips Ahoy cookie versus, baking your own delicious cake.
Well, I took I mean, I feel like I mentioned it a lot. I took psychology last semester, and there's something we learned about. I don't remember what it is exactly, but it's like what you're talking about. It feels better when you have achieved that yourself. Like you're saying, if you actually baked the cookies,
Yeah.
than if you went out to the store and just bought a bunch of cookies. Like the act of you making them makes eating
Well,
them
yeah, because you put
better.
yourself into it. And if we want to talk about impersonalization, and it's super prevalent already, like we've discussed, but then tie that in with that instant gratification, tie that in with sensationalism, all of these things together,
It's all one big pot pie.
it is.
It's a
It's all
real
one
steel
big
pot
cake.
pie.
But like that's what we're looking at here. Is that all these things tying together? And so maybe this movie is really just about finding a purpose. Or
A dog's
finding
purpose.
or finding I want to say what makes you happy, but that's not it. What you're missing, like if you're missing something in life,
Yeah.
stop eating the cookie and go bake the cake,
Right.
and then you'll be who says that? I think it's Jordan Peterson. I'm not sure, but somebody talks about the difference between happiness and joy. Maybe it's McConaughey,
All right. All right. All right.
but they say, oh, I think it is McConaughey. McConaughey talks about the difference between joy and happiness, and happiness is this fleeting thing that exists
Oh,
within the
I think
moment.
he does that in an Oscar speech.
Maybe, or I think it was a grad speech. He went to like a college or
Well,
something.
whatever it is, I think I've seen what you're talking about.
But then he talks about how joy is this lasting thing that is less of an emotion and more about tranquility and peace.
Right.
And so these sensational fights, these huge, awesome, epic fights bring you happiness in that moment. But then this deep and thriving and personal relationship brings you joy.
I agree, and I think that feeds into, or this can be seen in something I've mentioned on this episode on the podcast before. And I'm not going to say the quote now because I said it in another episode. But there's an episode of BoJack Horseman, probably my favorite show of all time, called BoJack Kills. And at the end of that episode, there's a character called Cuddly Whiskers who's basically talking about the same thing.
You have said this
Yeah,
so many times.
I've said the actual quote before, so maybe you listeners know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, that's okay. If you want to watch BoJack, go watch BoJack. It's on Netflix. It's great.
Well, and to surmise that quote and to kind of extend it, he talks, or it's basically talking about like suffering, and I think this is super. I thought about writing about secularism in this film, but I went with the man and machine aspect. But I think that does tie in, like you said, to this idea of these robots are things, and we invest so much time into them, and when they lose, we get super sad, and it is suffering. But then once Charlie sheds all the need for that, he finds a person that brings him joy.
I hope y'all can hear my knuckles popping. Snap, crackle, pop. For just like the Keebler elves.
Oh, that didn't work. So yeah,
Those were Jake's knuckles.
because I got a little bit more fatter on my
Yeah.
bones.
It took him a second.
Yeah, I gotta stretch my finger that extra long, like a wicket.
All right. I don't know what that was, but okay. Do you have more like meaning stuff?
Well, so you were like Max or Charlie is fighting for Max.
Yeah.
Like Charlie's fighting for Max.
Yeah.
Like for, and so I wrote this down. Max. Oh wait, no, this is the same thing.
Oh.
So never mind.
Boom, 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 boom.
I wrote it differently.
The price is wrong.
I was like, Max was fighting for Adam, but he wanted Charlie to fight for him, and that's why Max was fighting for Adam.
Which also, right after that fight, is when Charlie calls him dad for the first time.
Yeah, there you go. The Zeus fight?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because he's dead now.
yep.
But not actually, because auntie and uncle own him.
Yeah, Marvin, the sugar daddy.
Yeah. Which he really is a sugar daddy. Bro, this bitch was like, Max, we have a pool
Oh yeah, I
and a
wrote
lot
something
of
down
fun
about that.
toys
Something
that you
that
can
is
play
like,
with. Well, and this is where I was kind of coming from with like the secularism.
I couldn't figure out the right words, but I basically wrote down that like high class materialism is not what he wants. And like, there's a better way
Oh,
to put that, but
I do. There's another quote that I want to talk about.
okay.
Or a few other things with the idea of like the sentience kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
is that, especially with Noisy Boy, they're like Noisy Boy can beat any bot in there, but it's not Noisy Boy who's beating them. It's Charlie
Yeah, it's whoever's
who is
controlling
right.
him.
And then during the fight with Zeus, one of the announcers is like, Kenton must have wired this bot with the will to go on.
My dad just texted me. He said you might get snowed tonight. Be ready.
Snowed?
Yeah,
Not just snow,
yeah.
snowed.
Sounds like a threat.
I do not want to get snowed.
Sounds like a threat,
But yeah, like with the will, which is, a sentient.
bro. I don't know if you listeners can hear that, but someone's bumping the bass outside this apartment.
It's probably the Camaro.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? The yellow one?
I probably heard it
With the
but
livery?
not- Oh yeah.
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 I'm probably going to forget that my car is over there and not where it's supposed to be.
Well,
When I'm leaving, I'm probably going to freak out tomorrow morning.
anyways, sentience.
Yeah. Oh, with the will, which is a sentient.
The will of the wisps.
Yeah. What's it called?
I think that's Star Wars. What? Where
Not
there's a will, there's a
attribute.
way.
Yeah,
Oh.
attribute. Will is a will. The word will and what it stands for is a sentient attribute. So,
Okay, I'm trying not to sneeze.
bless you.
I don't think it's gonna happen. If it does, it's gonna be unexpected.
All right. Well, that's all I got.
Well, I don't think anyone blew up. A lot of people got wrecked,
Yeah.
but
No blow ups. But it wasn't nothing.
no.
There was fire.
When?
Metro caught on fire.
Is that the zoo guy?
Yeah. Because he was like, dun 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 dun. Or here we go. From Midsummer. Bonk.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we can give it a 2 at least.
Really? I was thinking only a 1.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what we've given everything else. But I don't know. I now I keep going back to this, but Whammy's Amy is probably actually technically more than this.
I don't think so. Because
But-
Whamby's Hammy was only a singular occurrence. So although
Yeah, but-
one tiny explosion,
It's still
I feel like
exploded.
it did, but I feel like a bunch of like kerpows.
But I don't remember how much that was. That might have been a 0.75, but I can go with a 1. I'm okay with that.
Well, you already said a 2. So.
Well, but I can go with a 1.
All right, I'll go with a 1 2. 1 out of 5 on the regular scale.
Yeah.
All right, am I doing the thing?
What thing?
Oh,
Twitter
we
and stuff?
didn't rate mom and dad's. The meaning of mom and dad's.
Do you want to do that?
Do I want to do that
right now?
Are you asking if I want to implement that into the episode, or
No.
are you
Yeah.
asking-
We, like it'll be a part of the episode, but do you want to do it now or just do it next time?
Do it now.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
we got a photos of mom and dad's. It's Jake's grandparents. So I don't know. Do we have permission to post these?
Yeah, I'm
On
sure
Twitter?
we do. Yeah.
Okay.
And if not, mom will like Jake, and I'm like, shut up.
So we will tweet these out if you want to give us your own meanings of Jake's grandparents. But this is we're about to tell you the deeper meaning of Jake's grandparents and the outfits that they're wearing.
Well, I can't. This has to be you because I already know the meaning.
Okay.
This is your
All
assessment.
right, hold on. Can you turn the laptop more?
Yeah. Here you go.
All right, so if you
This-
don't want to listen to this, I guess you can go ahead and leave. Follow us on Twitter @PacinoPod, and we have an email, but you should know what it is by now. All right. The deeper meaning of this guy. All right, he's in a sleeveless
His
shirt.
name is Michael Volk.
Michael Volk,
Yeah.
as in like Volkswagen.
Yes.
All right. He's wearing like an orange sleeveless shirt. He's got some kind of tattoo.
That's his Air Force tattoo.
You're giving me too much information, Jake.
Oh, sorry.
He's got like a leather hat, so I'm gonna say he's like a Crocodile Dundee type guy. And he's got a sleeveless shirt, so that means he's out and out in the world doing stuff. He's all people with a sleeveless shirt, they go out and do stuff. So I'm gonna say the deeper meaning of this guy who is Jake's grandfather,
Michael Volk.
Michael Volk. Oh, that's close to Michael Vick. Do you know who that is?
I know the name.
He's a football player that abused dogs in a dogfighting ring.
Ooh.
That's not Jake's grandfather's deeper meaning though. All right. What's the deeper meaning of like a Crocodile Dundee type guy? The deeper meaning.
That's not a knife.
Yeah, the deeper meaning is that Jake's granddad has a bigger knife.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Grandpa. All right, here you
All
go.
right, now Jake's grandmother. All right, so she's wearing a mask. That's good. She don't want to get COVID. She's got glasses because she needs to see. She's on an airplane. That means she's very well traveled. She's wearing, I think that's like a cheetah print shirt, leopard print, something. And I'm assuming that coffee is also hers. All right, so she's got the coffee. That means that she's tired. She's got the mask. That means that she believes in COVID. She's got the leopard print, so that means she's got like consensus style, but she's also maybe a little funky. You don't know. She's on an airplane, so that means she's well traveled, and she also can't see very well. So I'm gonna say the deeper meaning of Jake's mom is Jake's grandmother is the librarian in Ghostbusters, and so that means
in the actual Ghostbusters.
Yes, in the movie Ghostbusters. So that means that she's easily frightened, and her family may have a history of schizophrenia.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. You heard it here first.
So if you want us to do that to your parents, send us photos of your mom and dad, and we will tell you the deeper meaning of their photos.
So my grandparents, one's Crocodile Dundee and the other's the librarian from Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Hey man, I'll take it. Those are two classic films that everybody loves.
I've never seen Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, we also haven't seen Interstellar, so your opinion doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the same movie from what I understand.
Crocodile Dundee and Ghostbusters, or Interstellar and Crocodile Dundee?
Interstellar and Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, well, there is a bigger ship in.
That's not a ship. This is a ship.
Or no,
how do you say ship in Australian?
No,
also, did y'all know that the Wiggles are Australian? I learned that today, and I don't know what to do with that information.
But was it Bazooki?
Yeah, B is for Bazooki.
But it's Matthew. All right. That's not a ship. Oh, that's George Bush.
That's George Bush or Clinton?
No, that's Bush. Okay. George W. Bush. Well, all right. That ain't no ship. Now that's a ship. That's my best McConaughey impression.
Yeehaw.
Here, I'll do it in George W. Bush too. Hey now, that's not a ship. This is a ship.
George Bush is the one that was
George W. Bush.
I know, but he's the second one, right?
Yes.
Okay, I like him. He puts a poncho on his head. Funny.
Okay.
All right, Jake. On that note, you want to tell him where to tweet us?
All right. Well, Tom's already said Twitter @PacinoPod. That's for little short quickies. Also sending us parents of your pictures and movie recommendations and something else. For some reason, I feel like Matthew McConaughey would be better than Hugh Jackman in Real Steel. And if you agree with
me,
explain...
although Hugh Jackman looks very good for his age, forever and always, because
he does.
Not in this movie, but I'm pretty sure, like this year or last year, 2020, he was like 56.
Holy shit!
I'm looking it up. What's our email?
What was I saying?
I don't know.
Send me an essay.
He's 52.
Send me an email. Send me an essay in the email of why Matthew McConaughey would make a better Charlie Kenton. And with that,
drink your pickle juice and stout and sauerkraut.
Stout and sauerkraut, Charlie boy.
What are they doing?